The 99th rejection came in the form of a plasma bolt that singed the hair off my left arm. I stood in the scorched grass of the Vel'kari diplomatic clearing, smoke rising from my sleeve, and watched Queen Syrath descend back into her hive ship without so much as a backward glance. Her royal guard, 12 warriors each standing 9 feet tall with chitin armor that could deflect standard ammunition, formed a wall between us. Ambassador Chen, my earpiece crackled with Colonel Morrison's voice, please tell me you didn't just get shot at. Again. Define shot at, sir. The kind where I have to file another incident report explaining why humanity's chief negotiator keeps returning to hostile territory despite explicit warnings from command. I brushed the ash from my uniform. She missed on purpose. That's progress. The line went silent for a long moment. Get back to base, Chen. That's an order. I didn't argue. I never did. But as I walked back toward the extraction point, I couldn't help looking over my shoulder at the hive ship, a massive organic structure that pulsed with bioluminescent veins, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. 99 attempts, over 14 months. 99 refusals to even hear humanity's proposal for a ceasefire. The Vel'kari human war had been raging for 6 years. 200 million dead on both sides. Entire colonies reduced to glass. And Queen Syrath, ruler of the largest Vel'kari faction, had made it clear that she would rather watch the galaxy burn than sit at a table with the mammals. So why did I keep coming back? Base Camp Meridian was a temporary installation on Kepler 442b, a world that sat precisely on the border between human and Vel'kari space. It was supposed to be neutral ground, but nothing about this war was neutral anymore. I found Dr. Sarah Webb waiting for me in the medical bay, her expression somewhere between exasperation and clinical concern. Plasma burn, she said, not a question. Surface level. I sat on the examination table. She's getting more accurate. That's not comforting, James. It is if you understand Vel'kari psychology. I winced as she applied the regenerative gel. A kill shot would have been center mass. She aimed for my arm. She wanted me to feel it but not die from it. Sarah paused her work. You've been at this for over a year. 99 attempts. Council is ready to pull the plug on diplomatic solutions entirely. I know. They're talking about Operation Sunfire. Coordinated strike on all major Vel'kari hive worlds. I closed my eyes. I know that too. Billions would die. On both sides. Which is why I'll be back in that clearing tomorrow. Sarah finished bandaging my arm and stepped back. What makes you think the 100th time will be any different? I didn't have an answer for her. I'd been asking myself the same question every night for 14 months, lying awake in my bunk, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was the most persistent diplomat in human history, or simply the most delusional. But there was something in the way Queen Syrath looked at me during our brief encounters. Something that went beyond the hatred her species was supposed to feel for mine. The first time she had tried to kill me outright. 10th time she had merely ordered me away. By the 50th she had started listening, just for a moment, before the walls came back up. And the 99th time she had fired that plasma bolt herself personally, when she could have ordered any of her guards to do it. That meant something. I just had to figure out what. The 100th attempt came 3 days later, after I had healed enough to walk without grimacing. I stood in the same clearing, wearing the same diplomatic whites, carrying no weapons as protocol demanded. The Vel'kari hive ship loomed before me, its organic hull shifting colors in the afternoon light. The royal guard emerged first, taking their positions with practiced precision. Then came the lesser queens, Syrath's daughters, each one a potential successor, each one watching me with compound eyes that reflected my image 1,000 times over. And finally, she descended. Queen Syrath was unlike anything human biology could have produced. Her form was vaguely humanoid but stretched and refined, standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms that ended in delicate razor-sharp digits. Her exoskeleton was a deep purple, almost black, with veins of gold running through it like living circuitry. Her face was angular, alien, beautiful in a way that made my human brain struggle to process. But it was her eyes that always struck me. Unlike her species' typical compound arrangement, the queen possessed 2 large singular eyes, a genetic marker of royal blood. They were silver, metallic, and right now they were fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Ambassador Chen. Her voice was a harmonic resonance that seemed to come from everywhere at once. 100 times you have come to this place. 100 times you have stood before me, unarmed, unafraid, your majesty. I inclined my head in the Vel'kari gesture of respect. I am honored you've kept count. Do not mistake observation for honor. She stepped closer, and her guards tensed. I have ended dynasties for lesser insults than your persistence. Then why haven't you ended me? The question hung in the air between us. I watched something flicker across her alien features, surprise perhaps, or something more complex that I lacked the cultural context to interpret. You speak boldly for a creature so fragile. I speak honestly, your majesty. That's all I've ever done. She circled me slowly, her 4 arms clasped behind her back in a pose that was almost contemplative. My advisors believe you are a spy. My generals believe you are a fool. My daughters believe you are both. She stopped directly in front of me, close enough that I could see my reflection in her silver eyes. What do you believe you are, Ambassador Chen? Tired, I said. I believe I'm very, very tired. That seemed to catch her off guard. Tired? 6 years of war. 200 million dead. And everyone on both sides seems convinced that more death is the only answer. I met her gaze without flinching. I'm tired of attending funerals, Your Majesty. I'm tired of writing letters to families who will never see their loved ones again. I'm tired of watching good people, human and Vel'kari alike, throw away their lives for a conflict that started over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Her voice dropped to a dangerous harmonic. Your species destroyed the Nursery Moon of Vel'kari. 40 million larvae, the next generation of my people. You call that a misunderstanding? I call it a tragedy, I said quietly. A tragedy caused by fear and miscommunication. The colonial fleet that fired on Vel'kari believed they were defending against an invasion force. They didn't know, couldn't have known, that the ships approaching were unarmed transports carrying her young to their traditional hatching grounds. Ignorance is not an excuse. No, it isn't. But it's also not the same as malice. I took a breath. Your Majesty, I can't undo what happened at Vel'kari. I can't bring back the 40 million lives that were lost. But I can tell you that the officers responsible were court-martialed. I can tell you that humanity mourned alongside your people when we learned the truth. And I can tell you that if you give me the chance, if you give us the chance, we can build something better than this endless cycle of retribution. The silence stretched between us, long and heavy. Around the clearing, the royal guard remained motionless, waiting for their queen's command. Finally, Syrath spoke. Why? I blinked. Your Majesty, why do you keep coming? She tilted her head in a gesture that was almost human. 99 times I have rejected you. 99 times I have sent you away with burns and bruises and wounded pride. Any other ambassador would have abandoned this effort long ago. So why do you persist? Had about the question, really thought about it, for the first time since I'd started this mission. Because someone has to, I finally said. Because if I give up, then the hawks on both sides win. Because my daughter is 7 years old, and I want her to grow up in a galaxy where peace is possible. I paused. And because every time you've had the chance to kill me, you've chosen not to. That tells me there's a part of you, however small, that wants this war to end as badly as I do. Queen Syrath stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, she raised one of her 4 hands and made a gesture I didn't recognize. The royal guard stepped back. Walk with me, Ambassador Chen. The interior of the Vel'kari hive ship was nothing like I had imagined. I had expected darkness, confined spaces, the claustrophobic geometry of an insect colony. Instead, I found myself in vast chambers filled with soft bioluminescent light, where organic architecture curved and flowed like frozen music. Walls were alive with patterns that shifted as we passed, responding to the Queen's presence with colors I had no names for. You are surprised, Syrath observed. I am, I admitted. Human intelligence reports suggested Vel'kari vessels were purely functional. This is beautiful. Your intelligence is based on observations of our warships. Those are designed for efficiency, not aesthetics. She gestured toward a spiraling corridor. This is a diplomatic vessel. A palace. Here, beauty serves a purpose. And what purpose is that? To remind us of what we are fighting to protect. We walked in silence for a while, passing through chambers where Vel'kari workers paused in their tasks to watch us with undisguised curiosity. I noticed that none of them seemed afraid of their queen, wary, respectful, but not fearful. You look at my people with strange eyes, Ambassador. I was taught that Vel'kari queens ruled through fear, I said carefully. That your subjects served out of instinct, not choice. Your teachers were poorly informed. She stopped beside a large viewport that looked out onto the planet's surface. The bond between a queen and her hive is not slavery. It is symbiosis. I provide direction, protection, purpose. They provide labor, loyalty, and, she hesitated, companionship. Companionship? You seem surprised again? I suppose I am. I joined her at the viewport. In all our intelligence briefings, in all the prisoner interviews and intercepted communications, no one ever mentioned that Vel'kari queens might be lonely. Syrath made a sound that might have been a laugh. We are not meant to be lonely. A queen is always surrounded by her hive, by her daughters, by her advisors and guards. And yet, she turned to face me. There is a difference between being surrounded and being understood. I think that's something humans and Vel'kari have in common, perhaps. She studied me with those silver eyes. You speak of your daughter. She is 7 years old? Yes. Her name is Mei Tautel. You have been away from her for 14 months. Pursuing me. I nodded, not trusting my voice. That is a significant sacrifice. Human children develop quickly, do they not? 14 months would be meaningful. She was 5 when I left. I swallowed hard. I've missed 2 birthdays. Her first day of school. First time she lost a tooth. I paused. but I keep a picture of her in my quarters. I look at it every night and remind myself why I'm doing this. Show me. I hesitated, then reached into my pocket and pulled out the small holographic projector I carried everywhere. Maya's face materialized in the air between us. Gap-toothed smile, dark hair and pigtails, eyes full of the kind of joy that only children seem capable of. Syrath leaned closer, her expression unreadable. She has your eyes, she said quietly. The same, determination. She has her mother's stubbornness. Your mate, my wife? Elena. She died 3 years ago. Vel'kari raid on Proxima Station. The words hung in the air between us. I watched Syrath's posture shift, something subtle but unmistakable. And yet you come to me seeking peace. Elena believed in peace, I said. She was a xenolinguist. Spent her whole career trying to build bridges between species. She would have wanted me to keep trying even after. I stopped, took a breath. Especially after. Syrath was silent for a long moment. The Nursery Moon of Vel'kari, she finally said. Among the larvae who died that day was my youngest daughter, Syrath. She was equivalent to what you would call 3 months old. I felt something twist in my chest. I didn't know. No one knows. I have never spoken of it, not even to my advisors. She turned back to the viewport. She would have been a lesser queen. Not powerful, not destined for great things. But she was mine. And she is gone. I'm sorry. Do not apologize for crimes you did not commit. She straightened. But understand, Ambassador, why peace has been difficult for me to consider. Every time I think of compromise, I see her face. Every time I consider negotiation, I hear her last cry through our hive bond before the missile struck. And yet you haven't killed me. No. She turned to face me again. I have not. Why? She was quiet for so long that I thought she might not answer. Then slowly, she reached out with one of her delicate hands and touched the holographic image of May, her claws passing harmlessly through my daughter's smiling face. Because when I look at you, Ambassador Chen, I see something I did not expect to find in a human. She withdrew her hand. I see a father who loves his child enough to walk into enemy territory 99 times, enduring rejection and pain and humiliation, on the chance that he might build a better future for her. And I find myself wondering, she paused. What might have happened if such a human had come to Vel'kari before the war? If someone with your persistence, your stubborn refusal to accept hatred as inevitable, had been there to bridge the gap before the first shots were fired. We can't change the past, I said softly. No. We cannot. She straightened to her full height. But perhaps we can change the future. She made another gesture, and a door appeared in the organic wall beside us. Come. There's something I wish to show you. The chamber she led me to was unlike anything else in the hive ship. It was smaller, more intimate, with walls that glowed a soft amber. In the center stood a pedestal, and on that pedestal rested a single crystalline sphere about the size of my fist. Do you know what this is? Syrath asked. I shook my head. It is a memory crystal. A repository of Vel'kari history, containing the recorded experiences of every queen who has carried it for the past 12,000 years. She approached the pedestal reverently, including my own memories. My joys. My sorrows. My daughter's face in the moment before she died. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to understand what you are asking me to do. She turned to face me. When I consider peace with humanity, I am not simply weighing political advantages or military strategies. I am asking myself whether I can forgive the species that took my child from me. Whether I can look at human faces without seeing the faces of those who murdered 40 million of my people's young. I understand. Do you? She stepped closer. Truly, I understand grief, I said. I understand the way it hollows you out, makes everything feel distant and unreal. I understand lying awake at night, replaying the moment of loss over and over, wondering what you could have done differently. I met her silver eyes. And I understand the temptation to let that grief turn into rage, to let it consume everything until destruction seems like the only path forward. Then you understand why I have rejected you 99 times. Yes, and yet you came back, 100 times. Yes. She was silent for a moment. Then she did something that surprised me more than any plasma bolt ever had. She laughed. It was a strange sound, harmonic and resonant, nothing like human laughter. But the emotion behind it was unmistakable, genuine amusement touched with something that might have been wonder. You are the strangest creature I have ever encountered, James Chen. It was the first time she had used my given name. I've been called worse. I do not doubt it. She sobered, her expression growing thoughtful. I cannot promise you peace, Ambassador. The path from here is long and uncertain, and there are many on both sides who would see us fail. I know. But I can promise you this. She extended one of her hands palm up, in what I recognized as a Vel'kari gesture of tentative alliance. I will listen. For the first time in 6 years, I will truly listen to what humanity has to say. I looked at her hand, understanding the significance of what she was offering. In Vel'kari culture, this gesture was not made lightly. It was the first step towards something deeper, a willingness to be vulnerable in the presence of another. I placed my hand in hers. Her chin was warm against my skin, surprisingly smooth. "That's all I've ever asked for, Your Majesty." "Syrath," she said quietly. "When we are alone, you may call me Syrath." The negotiations began 3 days later. They were not easy. Nothing about this process was easy. For every step forward, there seemed to be 2 steps back, old grudges surfacing, new misunderstandings arising, voices on both sides crying for blood instead of compromise. But we persisted. I spent my days in conference rooms, mediating between human admirals and Vel'kari generals, translating not just words but intentions, trying to build bridges across a chasm of 6 years of war. And I spent my evenings with Syrath, walking through her hive ship, learning the intricacies of Vel'kari culture that no intelligence report had ever captured. She showed me their art, living sculptures that grew and changed over centuries. She introduced me to their music, vibrations that resonated through the ship's organic structure, creating harmonies that human instruments could never replicate. She taught me the basics of their language, not the simplified trade dialect we used in negotiations, but the true Vel'kari tongue, with its complex harmonics and emotional undertones. And in return, I told her about humanity. I told her about our history, our wars and our triumphs, our capacity for both cruelty and kindness. I told her about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests that had shaped our evolution. I told her about Elena, about falling in love with her laugh, about the way she had seen beauty in every species she studied. I told her about May, about her stubborn insistence on wearing mismatched socks, about her dream of one day traveling to the stars. "You speak of your daughter often," Syrath observed one evening as we stood on the observation deck watching the stars wheel past. "She's never far from my thoughts. Does she know what you are doing here? She knows I'm working to end the war. She's too young to understand the details." Syrath was quiet for a moment. "Among my people, children are never shielded from harsh truths. We believe that understanding the darkness is necessary to appreciate the light. Humans have a different philosophy. We try to protect our children's innocence for as long as possible. And yet you have brought your daughter into a galaxy at war. You have left her without a father for 14 months while you pursue an uncertain peace." She turned to face me. "Is that protection?" The question stung more than I wanted to admit. "No," I said quietly. "It's sacrifice. I'm sacrificing time with her now in the hope that she'll have a better future. And if you fail, if these negotiations collapse and the war continues, then at least I'll know I tried." I met her silver eyes. Better to have tried and failed than to have done nothing at all. Syrath made that harmonic sound that I had come to recognize as contemplation. "You truly believe that?" "I do." "Such optimism." She shook her head slowly. "Among my people, a queen who fails is removed from power. Her daughters challenge her, and if she cannot defend her position, she is cast out. Failure is not seen as noble. It is seen as weakness." "That sounds lonely." "It is the way of things. It doesn't have to be." She looked at me sharply. "What do you mean?" I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. "Maybe failure isn't the worst outcome. Maybe the worst outcome is never trying at all. Never reaching out, never taking risks, never allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is death for a queen." "Vulnerability is connection," I countered. "It's the foundation of every meaningful relationship. The willingness to let someone see you as you truly are, flaws and fears and all." Syrath was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer than I had ever heard it. "You have seen more of me in these past weeks than any living creature. My doubts, my grief, my hope." She turned away from the viewport. "Does that not frighten you? Should it? I am a Vel'kari queen. I command armies. I've ordered the deaths of thousands of your people. And I've negotiated with warlords and dictators across a dozen worlds. I've sat across the table from people who would have killed me without a second thought." I moved to stand beside her. "You don't frighten me, Syrath. Then you are either very brave or very foolish. Probably both." She made that laughing sound again, and I felt something warm bloom in my chest at the sound of it. The attack came without warning. I was in my quarters, reviewing the latest draft of the ceasefire agreement, when the first explosion rocked the base. Alarms shrieked. Emergency lighting bathed everything in red. "All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Unknown hostiles approaching from Sector 7. I grabbed my emergency kit and ran for the command center, my mind racing through possibilities. The negotiations had been progressing well. Too well, perhaps. There were factions on both sides who saw peace as a threat to their power, their purpose, their very identity. Someone had decided to end the talks permanently. The command center was chaos when I arrived. Holographic displays showed a swarm of ships approaching, not Vel'kari, not human, but something else. Something older. "What the hell are those?" Colonel Morrison demanded. "Kreth raiders," one of the analysts reported, her voice tight with fear. "They've been dormant for 50 years. We thought they were extinct." I knew the Kreth by reputation. An ancient species of spacefaring predators who fed on conflict, literally harvesting the psychic energy released by violence and death. They had been driven to the edges of known space centuries ago, but apparently, 6 years of human Vel'kari war had drawn them back like sharks to blood. "Where's the Queen's ship?" I asked. "Under attack. They hit her first, must have identified her as the highest value target." The analyst's hands flew across her console. "Her shields are holding, but she's taken damage. Multiple hull breaches." I made a decision without thinking. "I need a shuttle, now." Morrison grabbed my arm. "Chen, are you insane? Those things will tear you apart. If Syrath dies, the negotiations die with her. Everything we've worked for, gone." I pulled free. "I'm not letting that happen. You're a diplomat, not a soldier. Today, I'm whatever I need to be." I ran for the hangar bay, ignoring the shouts behind me. A shuttle was prepped and waiting. Emergency evacuation protocol. I threw myself into the pilot's seat, punched in the coordinates for Syrath's hive ship, and launched into hell. The space between the base and the hive ship was a maelstrom of weapons fire. Kreth raiders swarmed like locusts, their jagged black hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Human and Vel'kari ships fought side by side for the first time in 6 years, united against a common enemy. I weaved through the chaos, relying on instincts I hadn't used since my days as a combat pilot, before the diplomatic corps recruited me. Kreth raider locked onto my shuttle, its weapons charging. Then a Vel'kari fighter swept across my path, intercepting the raider with a burst of plasma fire that reduced it to debris. Through my comms I heard a familiar harmonic voice. "Ambassador Chen, you are either very brave or very foolish." "Probably both," I replied. "I'm coming to you. The main hangar is compromised. Dock at Auxiliary Port 7. I adjusted course, dodging another raider, and made for the coordinates she had given me. The hive ship loomed ahead, its bioluminescent veins flickering with damage. Whole sections of the organic hull had been torn away, exposing chambers to the vacuum of space. I docked hard, not bothering with proper protocols, and ran into the ship with a rebreather mask over my face. The corridors were dark, emergency lighting casting everything in shades of amber and red. Bodies lay everywhere, Vel'kari workers who had been caught in the decompression, their chitin cracked and frozen. I found Syrath in the memory chamber. She was wounded, one of her arms hanging at an unnatural angle, ichor seeping from a gash across her torso. But she stood tall, positioning herself between the crystal pedestal and the door, her remaining 3 arms raised in a defensive posture. 2 Kreth warriors faced her, nightmarish creatures of shadow and hunger, their forms shifting and indistinct. I didn't think. I acted. The emergency kit contained a plasma pistol, standard issue for diplomats in hostile territory. I drew it and fired, catching the first Kreth in what passed for its center mass. It shrieked, a sound that clawed at my sanity, and turned toward me. "James!" Syrath's voice was sharp with alarm. The second Kreth lunged at me. I fired again, but it was too fast, too fluid. It knocked the pistol from my hand and wrapped shadowy tendrils around my throat, lifting me off my feet. I couldn't breathe. Darkness crept at the edges of my vision. Then Syrath was there, her injured form moving with impossible speed. She struck the Kreth with her remaining good arm, her claws tearing through its shadowy substance. It released me, screaming that sanity-shredding scream, and dissolved into nothing. I hit the floor hard, gasping for air. James died. Syrath knelt beside me, her silver eyes wide with something I'd never seen in them before. "James, speak to me." "I'm okay," I managed. "Are you injured?" "Not mortally." She helped me to my feet, and I noticed that she was shaking. "You came for me." "Of course I did. You could have died. You are a diplomat. This is not your fight." "Like hell it isn't." I met her eyes. "You're not just a negotiating partner anymore, Syrath. You're..." I stopped, unsure how to finish the sentence. "I am what?" The question hung between us, heavy with implications neither of us was ready to fully acknowledge. "You're someone I care about," I said finally. "Someone worth protecting." She stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, she reached out with her uninjured hand and touched my face, her claws gentle against my skin. "No one has ever..." Her voice cracked. "No one has ever risked themselves for me. Not like this. Not without obligation, or duty, or political calculation. Then no one has ever seen you clearly." The battle still raged outside. The ship shuddered with impacts. But in that moment, standing in the amber glow of the memory chamber, none of it seemed to matter. Syrath pulled me close, wrapping her arms around me in an embrace that was nothing like anything I had experienced before. Alien and warm and somehow exactly right. "Thank you," she whispered into my hair. "Thank you for not giving up on me." The Kreth were driven back. It took 3 days of brutal fighting, human and Vel'kari forces working together in ways that would have been unthinkable weeks before. The ancient predators, weakened by centuries of dormancy, retreated to the dark spaces between stars, their hunger unsatisfied. In the aftermath, everything changed. The ceasefire was signed within a week. Not because the politicians had suddenly become enlightened, but because the soldiers on both sides had fought shoulder to shoulder against a common enemy. They had bled together. They had saved each other's lives. And they had discovered something that 6 years of war had obscured, that they were not so different after all. I stood in the diplomatic clearing one last time watching the sun set over Kepler 442b. Tomorrow, I would return to Earth. Tomorrow, I would finally see my daughter again. You are leaving. Turned to find Syrath approaching across the scorched grass. Her injuries had healed. The Vel'kari regenerated quickly, but she moved with a careful deliberateness that spoke to lingering pain. I have to. May has been waiting long enough. I understand. She stopped beside me close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her chitin. Will you return? I don't know. That depends on a lot of things. On what things? I hesitated. On whether there's a reason to come back. Syrath was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into a fold of her ceremonial robes and withdrew something small and crystalline. A fragment of the memory sphere, shaped into a pendant. Among my people there is a tradition. When a queen wishes to honor someone who has proven themselves worthy, she shares a piece of her memories with them. Her joys. Her sorrows. Her hopes for the future. She held out the pendant. I wish to share mine with you. I took the pendant carefully. It was warm to the touch, pulsing with a faint inner light. Syrath, I don't. You asked me once why I rejected you 99 times. She moved closer. The truth is, I was afraid. Afraid of what it would mean to let a human past my defenses. Afraid of what you might see if you looked too closely. And now I am still afraid. She reached out and closed my fingers around the pendant. But I have learned from a stubborn diplomat who would not accept rejection, that fear is not a reason to stop trying. I looked at the pendant in my hand, feeling the weight of what it represented. I'll come back, I said. As soon as I can. I promise. I know. She made that harmonic sound that was almost a laugh. You are very persistent, James Chen. I have come to rely on it. I reached out and took her hand, 2 of them actually, since she had 4. The gesture felt natural now, comfortable in a way it hadn't been weeks ago. The treaty is just the beginning, I said. There's so much work to do. Cultural exchanges. Trade agreements. Diplomatic missions to other Vel'kari factions. I know. It could take years. Decades even. I know. She squeezed my hands gently. We have time. Those 3 words contain more hope than all the speeches and treaties and official proclamations combined. We have time. For the first time in 6 years, the galaxy had time. I pulled her into an embrace. Awkward with the height difference, complicated by her extra arms, and yet somehow perfect. Thank you, I whispered. For giving me a chance. For listening when you had every reason not to. Thank you for not giving up. For coming back 100 times when 99 rejections should have been enough. We stood there as the sun dipped below the horizon, 2 impossible beings from impossible worlds, holding on to each other in the fading light. 6 months later, I stood in a different clearing on a different world, watching May chase a Vel'kari youngling across a field of purple grass. The youngling was one of Syrath's granddaughters. A curious, energetic creature who had taken an immediate liking to my daughter. They had developed a language of their own, half human words and half Vel'kari harmonics, that neither Syrath nor I could fully follow. They adapt quickly, Syrath observed from beside me. Faster than any of us expected. Children usually do. I watched May tackle the youngling in a hug, both of them dissolving into laughter. It's the adults who struggle to change. You did not struggle. I had motivation. I glanced at her. Speaking of which, the council approved my request. I'll be staying on as permanent ambassador to the Vel'kari territories. Permanent. Syrath repeated the word like she was testing its weight. That is a long commitment. It is. I reached over and took her hand. But some things are worth committing to. She turned to face me fully, her silver eyes bright in the afternoon light. James Chen. When you first came to me, 99 times seeking peace, I thought you were the most irritating creature in the galaxy. And now? Now I think you are still irritating. She made that harmonic laugh. But you are my irritating creature, and I would not have it any other way. Hold her close, not caring who might be watching. Diplomats and guards and curious children alike. I love you too, I said. And somewhere across the field May and her new friend shrieked with joy, chasing each other through the purple grass, proof that the impossible was not only possible but worth fighting for. Worth coming back for. 100 times or 100,000. As many times as it takes.